All right. Looks like we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy, and this is the Week in Culture. Um, Real quick, shout out to Rumble people. I am looking at the chat. I can see you guys, but there seems to be an issue with my social stream ninja, so your chat comments may not show up on my screen, but I will be looking anyway. And I'll give you guys priority as well as I usually do. But yeah. So hey, John, how are you doing?
Oh, awesome as always. Just getting through the week, playing a lot of Death Stranding. Waiting. Well,
Are you playing the first one still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I stopped paying for PlayStation.
You played
Network.
it before?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
100%ed it back in 2019,
Yeah.
2020, whenever it first came out. And then I picked up the director's cut a couple years ago when I got all my stuff back from Seattle. I went and started to kind of play with it again, but then I decided I don't really like PlayStation Network, so I just kind of stopped playing it so that I could pick it up again later for my Steam Deck, which I now own, and I'm playing on very hard mode, and I'm going through and I'm just working on my overall play strategy and everything like that in a few weeks to months, however long it takes for my new system to arrive from Tomby in the UK.
Nice.
I will start the game. I'm gonna do a series called Death Streaming, and I'm gonna kind of do it in reverse, where I'm gonna show the end game to everybody and kind of go over like a little bit of what's this game actually about, because there's been a large misconception by a lot of people, the walking simulator and everything like that. And so I want to show everybody this is the furthest thing from a walking simulator. Like, you get all this stuff, by the end game, like there's all these crazy things in it. And so just kind of like do a breakdown. And then I will start the game over from scratch and do a very hard playthrough and show everybody like how you can effectively, kind of take this game on and appreciate it for what it is, rather than complaining about not being what it isn't, which is it is not Metal Gear, which we're actually talking about today. So
we will be talking about some Metal Gear today, and it's okay for devs to like broaden their horizons and try new things, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well, that's cool. So yeah, I mean, I last week there was no show. I don't know if you guys noticed. Some people were asking me about it. They thought I made a mistake or that there was some technical problem. But no, I was at a meetup yesterday, and it was in Ohio, so I had to drive about 5.5 hours to Ohio to do the meetup. And it was me and my wife, and then we stayed there the night and came back the next day. And it was a good time. So if there is anybody here who happened to be at the meetup, shout out to y'all. But most of the meetup people, I believe, were either from they were involved from Gamergate's beginnings, so back in 2014 or so, or they are Honey Badger Radio fans, so they're like MRAs. And I think it was a mix of both. We went to an arcade, and it was actually, you know what? I just want to say real quick about this experience, because it was very cool. I went to Dayton, Ohio, as Beaver Creek, and there was a mall there, and we were supposed to meet at the mall. Now, malls, when I think of malls as a kid from the 80s, I have a specific memory of what malls were like, which was like a very cool thing. There's all these shops, and there were all these people walking around. But I figured malls were dead, like not just because of, like time passing and people are not really shopping in malls anymore, and they're like more likely to shop online, but because of COVID stuff. And, in Chicago, the malls were destroyed by that. Mm-hmm. And I used to love going to the mall, right?
Yeah, even in a small town like this that I lived in, and all it had was the mall. It doesn't even really exist anymore.
Yeah, so like, and there's malls here in Roanoke, and they were starting to like pick up, like I was looking for a gym, and they have a Y over there. So we went to the Y to check it out, and I went inside the mall, and, it was some activity, but it wasn't the same. But when I go to this meetup this past Saturday, I swear it was like entering a time machine. Like, I get there and it's packed, and there's freaking kids on bungee cords. Like, like sometimes they have little play areas for children. There's kids, and they're doing that. and like, you know, there's people everywhere. The food court's full. All of the classic shops that I thought were completely dead and gone out of business were there. Like they had a FYE, they had a Suncoast video. Do you guys remember Suncoast?
Yeah.
They had a Suncoast. I thought that was I thought that was like obsolete. They had a Suncoast. They had Spencer's Gifts. Do you remember Spencer's?
Oh yeah, totally. Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like you entered a time warp or a city
Yeah, it was
that
like a
was
time
brought to you by
machine.
John
Like,
Hughes.
I came out in like the late 80s, early 90s. There was and the food court, like they had like, you know, Sabaros, all the classic mall places.
Right.
Dippin'
Oh,
Dots, you know, Dippin' Dots, Annie's Pretzels, Cinnabon, all of that. It was crazy. And Suncoast, very cool. And it was, you know, it was just really interesting. And we met at an arcade there called Round One. And it's essentially, it was like a Dave and Buster's, you know, like an arcade with a bar inside, and they have food and stuff. The food's really overpriced. The bar is overpriced as well, but it was a fun time regardless. And I'm going to come back to this because this isn't brought up for no reason. There is a relationship between what I'm talking about with my experience at the mall, but specifically Round One, the arcade, and one of the things we're going to get into on today's show.
Okay.
So, so that'll be coming up. So stick around for that because you don't want to miss it. All right. So let's get into today's stories. We're going to open with something I didn't know I was going to be excited about until like recently. So I'm actually a lot more interested in this than I was. Not that I was never interested. So let me just set it all up for you guys real quick. Okay. So Metal Gear Solid Delta is coming next week, right? And there are early reviews that are out. My expectation was that either because Hideo Kojima and his artist, I believe the guy's name is, I have it here, Yoji Shinkawa, the longtime collaborator, they're not with Konami anymore. So what I thought was it was basically like a high definition, you know, remake cash grab thing that Konami was doing because they don't have Kojima on the project anymore.
Right.
And maybe it's also because Kojima would never do a remake. I think they did remake the original Metal Gear Solid. They definitely did.
They haven't necessarily remade them.
The Twin Snakes. I mean, the
Twin Snakes. Twin Snakes is the only one that's had a quote unquote actual remake. And that was done by guys behind Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean? Wait, isn't that David Cage?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was
either.
It was either them or I can't remember exactly which developer. I'm thinking it was them, but it was either them or the people that did. Either way, but yeah, that's the only one that's ever been remade, and that was outsourced as a remake. So this is the first in-house remake. They did do when they put out the Master Collection back in 2020. That was a re-release of the HD upscale version that they had done. But this is its own thing. I was specifically talking about the Twin Snakes on GameCube. That was like the only remake that I know of, and I understand that even in that there were some changes made, or there's some things that people didn't like about it. Right.
But I haven't played it. I was planning on maybe playing it just to see, but I don't know if there's like another way to get it because I have a GameCube and I have the game I think somewhere. But it's been a while. So, but anyway, okay, I'm getting off topic.
Been a while.
So, early reviews for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater are starting to come out. They started coming out on like just this week. And it is apparently a faithful recreation of Hideo Kojima's 2004 classic Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater with stunning visual upgrades and quality of life improvements. The game right now is sitting at 86 out of 100 on Metacritic, which I will share with you guys right now, which I did not expect. And OpenCritic based on 59 and 37 reviews, respectively. Critics highlight its jaw-dropping graphics, detailed character models, and lush jungle environments with outlets like GameSpot and Polygon calling it a gorgeous and successful modernization of a stealth masterpiece. The remake retains the original story, voice acting, and cinematic cutscenes with additions like crouch walking, streamlined aiming, a new control scheme, new style versus legacy style that enhance gameplay fluidity. However, some reviews like PC Games N and Rolling Stone criticize its overly cautious approach, noting it feels like a reskin with minimal innovation beyond visuals, potentially making it feel dated for modern audiences.
Well,
While it's
that's
lauded as a near
actually
one-to-one remake that preserves Kojima's vision, some argue it could have pushed boundaries further, similar to the Resident Evil 2 remake. For newcomers, it's a perfect entry point, but for veterans, it may not surpass the original's emotional impact, though it's still considered a definitive way to experience Snake Eater. And like I said, originally, Hideo Kojima and his longtime collaborator, artist Yoji Shinkawa, split with Konami 2015, so they're not involved or involved with the project. So what were you going to say about that?
That last review you said from IGN, right? Was saying that
No, it was
it did.
Rolling Stone and PC Games N.
Oh, and
IGN loved it.
they
IGN
said that it
loved
didn't push it. And they said that it didn't take the opportunity to push boundaries. That is not a bug. That is a feature. That was the whole point of what they were doing, because you are doing a Metal Gear without Hideo Kojima at the helm to oversee it. They themselves said that they were using this as an opportunity to inundate the devs that work there now in the Metal Gear lore, and to not deviate. This is stewardship. This is actually saying, no. I don't care what your fucking silly thoughts are. Stick to the script. Do the thing. When they put out Metal Gear Survive years ago, it was met with utter apathy and dread, and so and also Konami for a number of years was more concerned about being a pachinko machine game maker than it was anything to do with the game industry, and so they've got a lot to prove right now. They're trying to do this whole redemption arc, it seems, and so you're talking about a game that a lot of people haven't played. It's over 20 years old.
I played it.
Yeah,
I played
right.
all the Metal Gears.
But you and I, we're old.
I know.
Right?
I'm old. I know.
So here's the thing. Like, for those young people who haven't played it, it doesn't scratch modern sensibility issues of what a game is like, and that's a good thing. And for the olds out here, that is also actually an even better thing, because I just want the thing that I remember, but I want to know what it looks like in its richest detail and everything like that. So this was explicitly set out as a way to train everybody up, get them into the mindset of actually doing a Metal Gear Solid series entry. And there will probably be a few more things that will be as faithfully recreated as possible, so that if and when they are financially successful enough, they can get around to doing what would be the eventual Metal Gear Solid 6 without Hideo Kojima involved, and hopefully they will earn people's good faith in them at that point in time. And depending on where the storyline takes place, there is a well-established timeline within Metal Gear series that goes over 100 years in detail, rich detail. So unless they're forging new ground that hasn't been anything beyond what happened at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, then there's every likelihood it will not, of course, be the same without Hideo Kojima's unique auteurship involved. If they end up making something new, but it was an eventuality, and the way that they're at least handling this gives me a little bit more comfort than it just kind of being something of like, well, we've completely run out of ideas, and this is the only thing that we can do. Like, their reasoning behind it seems sound and honest enough, because if you are going to redo something, this is not an easy endeavor to take on when you have the creative head there no longer being there, and their differences were as controversial in the split as it was, and everything like that. Konami's coming from an under position, and they
Yeah.
seemingly have done a really good job at trying to do this as faith based, to the audience and to the property. And that's something you don't see very much anymore. So them actually operating in good faith and not trying to take any kind of license with it, other than changing up the control scheme for the updated version so that it takes advantage of modern control scheme like firing and things like that. I'm willing to give this a lot more leeway than I would have upon initially hearing about it months and months ago.
Same.
Yeah.
I was a bit suspicious, but it looks like it's a pretty faithful adaptation. And I do have some questions. So I think that let's look at the franchise. So like the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was, and I know that you guys probably know this, but it was mostly like a top-down view game.
Isometric. Yeah.
Is it top down?
Top
down.
It was
top down, kind of far away, and you could go into first person, just like Metal Gear Solid 2, and it had mostly the same gameplays in terms of like the camera and some of the controls. You can lay down, you can crouch, but you couldn't walk. And they introduced like a closer third person, kind of over the shoulder perspective in Metal Gear Solid 4, and then Metal Gear Solid 5. And what I'm wondering about, just putting it out there, let's forget about the franchise, whatever the benefits are story wise, how crowded they might be with cutscenes. Like I know MGS4 is notorious for like long ass cutscenes, like the ending is like a movie. Let's set all that aside for a second and just talk about the mechanics. So what I think they're trying to do with this Delta version is have it still be Metal Gear Solid 3 in terms of the story and the pacing and all of that, but play or control more like Metal Gear Solid 4 or 5, maybe 5,
Right.
because I think 5. I really liked the controls for 5, like the way that it played. I think I probably poured the most time into 5 just because there was so much to do.
Right.
Where the other ones were more sort of linear. 5 was like open world almost, right?
Right.
And there was just a lot going on. So
Yeah.
what do you think about those changes of them trying to make 3 or Delta feel like 5? That's what I think they're trying to do.
Well, I know. I mean, I have no problem with that to a degree. It's not the controls aren't exactly like MGS5, but they are definitely more in that.
Yeah. That's what I read too, because they're trying to take something that was, again, the game was made for the controls of 3 and everything that it was, and then they're applying. It looks like they're trying to put a feel that's closer to 5,
right.
Maybe because 5 is what's in most people's recent memory or whatever.
Yeah, and if you're a stickler for I just want the thing just prettier, they do even have a legacy display and a legacy layout on the controls and everything like that. So this is them kind of having their cake and eating it too, but in the best way possible for everybody involved, because it is as much of a one-to-one recreation as they possibly could do. But then the only kind of adjustments are things that logistically make sense. Things that, oddly enough, if Hideo Kojima were involved, he might have stood in the way of. I was, because, Hideo Kojima, obviously, great creative mind, everything like that. However, to be devil's advocate, he might have at times, and this is generally the thing with great artists and genius and things like that, is, if you can get away with being an asshole and people still have to hire you, then you must have a lot of talent, skill, and ability and are hard to recreate. But there were a lot of people who actually did make the Metal Gear series come together, and there is a history of Hideo Kojima kind of taking it out on people who kind of, got into his vibe space, so to speak. You know,
Yeah.
the falling out between him and David Hayter is pretty well known about. I was watching another doc last night. I can't remember the guy's name, but the original Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation, when it got localized, the guy who was in charge of the localization knew a whole bunch of stuff about military ops and everything like that. And so he localized it, but took into account actual military jargon and put that into the game, so it seemed like it was more steeped in realism. He did such a good enough job that it ultimately carried back into the project, but Hideo Kojima basically got him blackballed from the game industry because he didn't follow to the letter
Yeah.
the script as it was laid out, and he tried to make it, because some stuff from Japanese to American does not translate. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense, and so he was
Yeah.
trying to account for that, and but do it with respect. So this, if you're going to end up doing a Metal Gear without Hideo Kojima, the best thing you can hope for is to get people that were really passionate about what the series is, how
Yeah.
it operates, and what it's about. And if you're not going to have like that, creative weirdness there, as it were,
Yeah.
then you want to have people who are so steeped and interested in their fandom driving them forward. So they're doing this out of passion and care, and bringing everything they can to their craft, than just a paint by numbers kind of slapstick kind of thing that just is done for, oh, we're just profiteering here. And so this thing, actually, I think this is about as good as in 2025. This
Mm-hmm.
is the best anyone could ever hope for, and probably even better than anyone really even expects, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So just a little bit about, I guess, as I understand it, people told me that all of the motion capture for the original cutscenes are still the same
yeah,
ones. Like they use as much of the old bones on the original game as possible on this. I
yeah,
don't know. I guess the voices are still the same. Like they didn't go get it re-recorded or anything like that. So you got David Hayter doing the voice of Snake.
hmm
And a lot of people are really happy with that. I'm happy with that. If it's the same recording, I think
it
that's
is.
true. Yeah, it
It
is,
is.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
they have the
There's
same.
only a few bits and bobs that have been updated audio wise. They re-recorded Snake Eater, the title
Song.
track. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had. It's still the same woman singing it, but it is an updated vocal recording and
Okay.
everything like that for her. But when you talk about line for line recreation, everything like that, yeah, all that stuff is archived. Maybe they might have upscaled, or it's played off the master rather than like a compressed,
Yeah.
down form of the file from 20 years ago. So it might
Fair
actually
enough.
even sound a little bit richer. But yeah,
Yeah.
they are the original data files.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and another thing I heard is apparently if you get injured in the game, which is why I showed this image,
hmm
wherever you were shot, you'll see wounds and scars and that kind of thing. These
Yep.
are little visual tweaks, like attention to detail, that I think is sort of indicative of this franchise, though. So I think that it will be appreciated. So looks like it's going to be good, despite some modern journos trying to claim that it hasn't been modernized enough. But that's a good thing, as John said.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
are you
When Rolling
guys?
Stone's complaining about you, you have to remember that the Mercanti
Yeah,
creature works there. So if Rolling
yeah,
Stone doesn't like what's going on in the game industry, that's generally a good thing.
yeah. So, what do you guys think? Are you thinking about picking it up? Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of like in a financial bit of a deficit because of what
Right.
happened to my car, so I got to play catch up. But I might be getting it in the
I
future. My birthday
I
is next month, so
yeah,
if
I
you're
would be
interested.
buying this
What?
thing out. I say I would be buying this thing outright if I had the $80 to get the digital.
Yeah.
And you know what, and I wouldn't even. There's very few games in the world that I'm willing to pay this much money for. But I absolutely love Metal Gear. Is my favorite gaming series. Death
Hmm.
Stranding is my favorite game. And if people are doing the good work, and this is the thing, is like, I'm willing to reward people for actually this game is steeped in its toxic masculinity is one of the things that I saw, and I'm like, oh well, all right, sign me up, because yeah, there are a lot of people that are kind of fucking pissed that this game exists to please its audience, and
of course,
yeah, so hilarious.
Many such cases, yeah.
Right. Why can't it be like shit like everything else? Why don't they have everybody all covered up? I almost for today's thumbnail almost had the conversation with I almost included some boobas on the thumbnail, but I decided not to because I was just like, it's like how many times do I got to go and show a high res snake on a thumbnail? So I ended up using that one, but yeah, like this game is great from what I'm seeing on it, and
I'm interested.
I will pick it up. I will pick it up when it is possible. If anyone out there wants to be my best friend in the world and get me spend $80 on me on Steam,
I guess the only real benefit of getting it day one is if you're a streamer and you want to
there is one piece of DLC which is really far from essential. It's a white tuxedo. That's it. That's like the one thing you get. There's a white tuxedo outfit that you can unlock if you pre-order it, but everything else will just be there. So one piece of DLC.
All right. Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Are you planning on getting it? I'd like to know. So, and yeah, let's move on to the next thing. So now we got to get a little bit serious with Roblox. So Roblox,
the Rolling Stone.
It is a popular online gaming platform with over 111 million daily users. It's marketed to children, okay?
Right.
And apparently, I don't know a lot about it. I guess it's a game that you use to make other games, kind of like Little Big Planet.
Yeah, it's kind of like my first Minecraft. Kind of was, I think, somewhat of the idea to some degree. That and like a cross between that and Duplo.
Well, it's a very popular with the kids, and apparently it's facing significant backlash due to inadequate child safety measures, partially concerning sexual predators. Yeah. Recent lawsuits, including one filed by Louisiana Attorney General Liz Muriel in August of 2025, allege that Roblox's lax safety protocols and insufficient age verification create an environment where predators can easily target children. Reports highlight cases where predators have groomed and exploited minors, with one lawsuit claiming that a 10-year-old was abducted after being contacted through Roblox, and another involving a Texas man who was abused as a child by a predator posing as a minor on the platform. The platform's failure to effectively moderate user-generated content and its controversial decision to ban vigilante users attempting to expose predators have further fueled criticism. In response, Roblox has implemented new safety features such as an AI-powered moderation to detect exploitative language and selfie-based age verification for teens, but critics argue these measures are insufficient. The company disputes claims of negligence, emphasizing its collaboration with law enforcement and child safety organizations, yet multiple lawsuits nationwide, including one representing over 400 users, assert that Roblox prioritizes profits over child safety. High-profile incidents, such as a 2019 case where a predator groomed 150 children on the platform, underscore the ongoing concerns. So, there's a couple things with this. So there's a guy with a YouTube channel called Chibi Reviews. I don't watch him, but I came across it. Yep. And did you see his video?
You're talking about the guy Schlepp? I think it's
I don't know. The channel's called Chibi Reviews, but I'm not sure what the guy's name is.
I think that's he was if it's the guy who was assaulted because of Roblox and didn't want to stop playing, and now has been doing this whole campaign with his team of people, and he's the one who they're saying, he got told that he was violating the terms of service and he was banned for life. I know of that part of it. There's all sorts of interesting little things. We start getting into what's going on with Roblox. One of their devs is on a video piece specifically talking to somebody about having CP on their phone.
Oh, wow.
And deleting. Yeah. And so,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm not
like,
surprised, really.
yeah, no. And that's the whole thing. That's why a lot of people are like, this is a predator haven, because the people that are involved with it, because remember, like, online games, it used to pop up as the warning, online sections of this game have not been rated by the ESRB, blah, blah, blah. Online games are not necessarily kids' spaces. And that's why all this censorship and everything like this, that's all for, like, the safety of children, is such a fucking farce to begin with.
Oh, it's a Trojan horse for sure.
Right.
It's a Trojan horse, yeah.
Right. And that's the whole thing. It's like, if you are a parent and you want to give your children access to these things under supervision, that's kind of good parenting. But the stuff that flies in Roblox, it is hoping that
it's kind of a Wild West. There really isn't any moderation. And from what I hear, well, basically, anytime you have a place that kids go, you're gonna have, PDFs around.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so, like, you have to, like, be ever vigilant of that. But the only way you can do that is not through legislation, which is what a lot of people are calling for, some kind of, like, government interference. Remember this, like, in the UK, they put in that Online Safety Act. I think they did similar things to that in Australia and in Canada, and maybe even the US, or there's like pushing for that. I know that this lawsuit that I talked about was I believe it was Tennessee, or no, Louisiana. It was Louisiana. And so I think that's the opposite of the right answer to this. I'm obviously, like, against PDFs hanging around children, but this is something that parents should be doing. And it's interesting because the state is the reason why parents aren't able to do their job. So, like, the state has separated men from their children and created the conditions for single motherhood. And that also creates then the conditions for where a mom who's, like, stretched thin, can't, like, deal with all of the kids, doesn't have a man around. Well, she sits them down in front of a tablet and lets them play Roblox, and then predators show up. It's almost like these things create the conditions for this to happen. And you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I was I had so last night I was doom scrolling, as you do time to time. And I saw this this post on X about how the Rockefellers, one of the Rockefellers was talking about how his feminism was created by profiteers via the state, specifically, so that they could find a way to tax people and
they wanted to put women in the workforce so they can get double the benefits.
Right. And so, of course, some feminist woman reads this open admission from the people that perpetrated this, because it wasn't the Rockefellers that actually done this. One of the kids, or I guess young. Well, to me, a lot of people are starting to be kids, but basically openly talking about how this was a profiteering scheme and meant to destabilize humanity. And of course, some feminist was like, "Oh, of course, blame the women." It's like, no one's blaming the women. The women were exploited and used as pawns so that they could set up this whole situation. And and it's just like how the trans identity crisis that's going on currently is for the same kind of ends. They want to do life extension technology, but they want voluntary submission to it. And so, there are a lot of things that are happening in the world today that rely on people just getting caught up in the here and now and not actually trying to hold on to what matters most, which should be the sanctity of their children's childhoods and their innocence. And they're just allowing them to be taken over by, predatory elements that effectively in Roblox are, there to a high degree. It was just 2 months ago, roughly, when Alyssa was calling for submissions from young kids to, if you participated in the BLM riots or the riots for LA against the anti-ICE riots and all this kind of stuff, get in contact with me. So she wants to make money off of children herself, which is pretty exploitative. And then she herself also last year, I believe, or maybe in the year before, but she was there was some kind of online Roblox fashion show, and it's like, what the fuck what are we doing here? What's this? And so
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
she, and so I may have tweeted added her in an X post earlier this week about because she was on about something again, trying to. I think she's got a new article coming out, and so every once in a while when she's got her new articles coming out, she tries to drum up
Stir the pot.
attention.
Yeah.
Right. And so I told her, she said something completely outlandish. I can't even, I think it was something about FPS community like being something or other. And I said, to be quite honest, Alyssa, there is far more evidence of you being a possible PDF through Roblox than there is evidence of this shit that you're suggesting, because quite honestly, there is. And I'm not saying that she wants to, like, as we know, she's terminated pregnancies time again. So I think her care for children only goes so far, but it doesn't mean that she's not willing to exploit them for her own ends or try to gratify herself through them as an audience, which in and of itself is pretty churlish behavior, to say the least. And that's what Roblox basically is a hotbed for a whole bunch of exploitative, weird, ideologically mindseted people to try to infiltrate on children and incept them when they're young and naive and open to suggestion, because they don't have a strong family unit or anything like that there.
Right. Like men and masculinity in general would protect against this kind of exploitation. And it's not just the PDF files that are the problem, although that's like a big problem. But Roblox in general apparently is really exploitative to children, period. Like microtransactions are like rampant, and children, they don't like, they're too young to understand the value of $1 and what the problem could be. And so they get swept up in this, they end up spending money. And then there's another thing. So there's lots of microtransactions, and I guess it also even has almost like casino gambling type of element to it that some people exploit as well. I'm not really sure how that works in game, but this is something I heard about. And that brings me to what I was mentioning at the top when I went to meet up for this meetup at round one. I noticed that the arcades have become a lot more like casinos. And I think that is something that we as gamers should be very wary of, because and obviously this has been going on forever. Like any mobile game, can have like these kinds of gambling elements to them. And you have like what FanDuel is. It's like something for sports ball people where they bet on games and stuff. And this is a big problem because it's a very profitable endeavor for people who are making this stuff. Like, it's insanely profitable. They make bank on it, and they will use it on, vulnerable people. But at least those people are adults that can try to like make their own decisions.
Right.
I don't know how you guys feel about gambling, like whether it should be illegal or anything like that. I think that people should avoid it. I do. I mean, like my mother-in-law is a little bit of a addict.
Yeah, I don't really even do scratchers or anything like this. I now live in a state where gambling has been legalized. And so like there's and it's a little nowhere town, but even in this little nowhere town, there's like 4 or 5 places where you can go and just get lose your paycheck.
Well, I saw that this interview, I forget what the guy's name, but I think he works at The Hill or something, and he did like some investigative journalist research into the whole like sports ball online betting thing. And then like it went down a rabbit hole of just like looking at all these like betting games and websites and apps on your phone. And he said that it makes a lot of money, but it doesn't build anything. And that's the problem, right? It's just like a drain on people.
Yep.
And this is Roblox has this as well. So this is extra bad because it's children. And going back to what I was saying, though, I went to this round one thing, and I saw that the way you played games is you had to put money on a card. I have the card in my wallet.
Right.
Still, there's a little bit left, and
Tokenization.
the card gives you a number of credits, and you use the credits to play games, and the credits are like it's not one to one.
Non-transferable. Right.
What?
Non-transferable. You
Yes.
can't exchange the tokens back out. You have to.
Yeah, and there's like there's games you can play to win tickets. Like there's like claw machines and like foosball type things. What is it? Where you throw the basketball thing? It was like a circus, like kind of right, but it was there was a lot of casino type vibes going on where they use bright colors and really striking imagery to get you to go play their games, but the games are not very rewarding. And I thought it was weird because when I went there, I was like, it's an arcade. And I'm like, what's the purpose of an arcade? Like, we can all get like the most cutting edge graphics at home. So what could an arcade offer? And the truth is that it doesn't really offer much, except it gets you, I think it's trying to hook you in that gambling bug.
Yeah.
And that was the thing about round one that I caught right away. And I was like, yeah, I'm not playing any of these games. Like my wife, even she was like, I want to try this thing. And I was like, nah, we're not doing that. Let's play the air hockey. We just played air hockey.
Yeah. No, I have seen arcades like that. For the most part, they have kind of gone out of fashion, as arcades in general kind of have. Back growing up in this little dinky ass town, we did have a different kind of arcade setup where it was, I believe you paid $5 for a set amount of time. I think it was like, $5 for like the first 2 hours you were there, and then after that it was $5 an hour. And so I used to spend like $20 and hang out there for a day. But the entire time all the games were set to free play and all this kind of stuff. And they even had they called it the Fun Palace, and it was taken from an old Video Kingdom. I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but it was a back before Blockbuster was even really a thing. It was just it was a regional rental place, and it actually had the facade of a castle. And so when this place got bought out again, they call it the Fun Castle. You can go in there, and this was I think the Sega Saturn was the most advanced system out at that point in time. And so you could play games, 32X, this and that.
Yeah,
like they had
I remember when I went to the theater, they had an arcade, and they literally, because people weren't going to arcades anymore because they had games at home, they were literally just setting up consoles in like a room, and you could just pay to play whatever console you wanted.
Yeah, and that's the way this worked too. Yeah, they had like an entire row of Mortal Kombat machines. I think Mortal Kombat 2 was out at the time. And they had like the old Sega holographic, like the thing with the orb kind of top and the time traveling game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was cool because it was just like you pay your money and you got to play whatever during that time as long as there was nobody there. But the thing that you're talking about, I've seen arcades like that where it is all about.
And the thing is too is that this round one, I guess it's like a Japanese company.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you think about it, in Japan, they have this already, right? There's pachinko machines that are very popular there, and a lot of like sort of gambling type machines where you win tickets or chips, and you can trade them in and get a stuffed animal, and you probably paid more, like for the tickets than you would have if you just bought the stuffed animal on Amazon or something.
Right.
But the thing I want to get to is that the Roblox situation is not just the predators on the platform, but I think there's other kinds of predatory behavior in terms of the microtransactions that there's a lot of. Apparently it's rife with them, and the gambling, like the sort of gambling mechanics of the whole thing, which is I think designed to get kids hooked. And it's we talked about how the absence of fathers is like the reason why these things are so easy to do. And I think that ultimately that's where we should be moving towards. But as gamers, I would ask that you guys, and I think you all are aware, that you be aware of games that have sort of like gambling mechanics in them. I think that, as an example, there are what do they call them, gacha games, where you can like unlock characters like waifus. I think those can be pretty bad on that front, especially if they're free to play. Like some free-to-play games, I think you can, if you have the will, you can avoid spending money on them. Like I've been playing Marvel Rivals since it came out, and I haven't spent a cent. And I just
Right,
pace myself, and I basically like think that none of this is worth the money. Eventually,
right.
I'll get it anyway, and I'm fine. But with other games that, especially the ones that have multiple currencies in them and
Yes,
stuff,
yeah, the
I think
premium
that's very
currencies.
sketchy,
I mean,
right?
that was ultimately the thing that was the downfall of Red Dead Online was, and they
Yeah.
set out specifically
I
to
think
make it
the
so that
first Descendant is basically dying out too. Like people aren't playing
yeah,
it anymore.
well, yeah, because First Descendants is one of those games that unless you're caught up in like the jiggle physics that recently got added or this or
Mhm.
that, it does. But that is clearly oriented for an adult audience, so you should have
Oh, for sure.
discretionary income to deal with it. But I've never even gotten into the First Descendant because it is one of those free to play games that's trying to sell you a whole bunch of skins and this and that,
Yeah.
and and if they don't give you a way to earn said premium currencies, I mean, when I did my kind of creative design for what ultimately went into Red Dead Online, it was all about how to reward concurrent day to day play, and and I built that around the whole concept of the daily objectives because I
Yeah.
wanted to reward the audience. And sure, you can always pay for gold bars in that game if you wanted to at the time that I made my design decisions, but the whole idea was that you didn't have to. If you actually put in the time and the effort, the company should reward you for that because you're actually building them word of mouth and you're doing the advertising. So if you in theory want to get paid to play a game rather than just pay out to play a game, there should be some vital exchange between the creators and the audience. I think that or some level of personal responsibility and discretion in terms of not paying for every little microtransaction that comes out. Like, what is it? I think it was COD that just had added Beavis and Butthead in as
Yeah.
skins along with Peter Griffin.
American Dad and
Yeah,
yeah.
fucking
They've lost their way. They've become Fortnite.
yeah,
They're trying to like become like Fortnite. And as Fortnite also probably has a similar issue because my nephew, who was very
yeah.
young when he got into to Fortnite, he was begging me to play it with him. And he's like, it's free to play. And I was like, that's suspicious. Like everybody's playing it and it's free. So but I don't know, maybe Fortnite's not a good example. But we got to move on. So I'll just say again, the Roblox situation, it's not entirely new, but I do think there's a lot of things
Yeah,
going on
it will
here.
continue to
There's
evolve.
yeah,
I'm sure we'll
there's a
touch
lot of
on
good
it
things
again
going
at some
on.
point.
We have children being exploited for a number of reasons. We have absentee parents that aren't able to, like monitor their kids or set an example so they're not exploited. And then we have the governments trying to use this as an opportunity to gain control by saying, "Oh, I guess you guys need, like real IDs or some kind of virtual identification or AI or something, right?" And it's like, no, 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 that's a different rabbit hole that we want to avoid if possible. And I think that just having like a dad around is probably going to be a big solution to the problem. But okay, Robert Johnson, I want to read some comments, some
Yeah,
chat. So Robert Johnson says gaming is a $200 billion industry. Gambling is a five or under just under $500 billion annually. So yes, and that's I'm saying like for people who profit off of gambling, it seems lucrative, but it doesn't actually build anything. So it's not good for your country that people are losing money hand over fist because they're trying to win. So it's kind of sad. And then he follows up by saying it's just global casino revenue, physical and online. St. Hugo says community creations, the games within the game, is kids doing the design work and getting a few cents. Hail all. So yeah, that's another thing too. Is that like I guess Roblox is just sort of like the building blocks for games, and the kids that play it are the ones making the content. So you got kids working for nothing,
kids.
and they're creating content for you. Yeah, you have
Right,
child
right.
labor. I guess
Right.
they
So
brought it
you have
back.
kids, but then you also have those people that are very exploitative using those systems. I wanted to say really quickly to Norwegian Black Templar. He because I had said the whole thing about the Rockefeller Foundation,
Yeah.
everything like that. And he said we absolutely should blame the women. They caused this by not taking responsibility for their choices to a degree. But much like the thumbnail that I made a few weeks ago, where I had the WF sitting in the vehicle of Collective Shout, they are it's kind of like the conductor on the train is the one who makes the decision. The train gets it to where it's going. And so feminism in and of itself was a construct that was created by a think tank in the Rockefeller Foundation on how do we go and destroy the American family and, individual sovereignty and all that kind of stuff. Now, yes, they are dutiful, willful, compliant, useful idiots that have gotten lost in the sauce along the way. And modern feminists certainly do bring a lot of stupid fuckery to the situation, but ultimately it would be it would be a little bit myopic to just minimize and fixate on just them as being the progenitor of this, when in fact they were something that was caused by a much wider top-down scale kind of mindset on how do we destabilize
Yeah.
the reality as we know it. And so yes, they do have a part in it, but I wouldn't say that all the blame necessarily falls on the shoulders of women, because they were being exploited, and shame on them for not actually recognizing what the fuck was going on. But there is plenty of blame to go. And if we don't talk about the corporatist driven globalism that is behind a lot of these, that's how we ended up in 2025, is a whole bunch of measures that have built this house of cards kind of reality, where everybody's sitting here pointing fingers at all these exploited groups. We're crabs in a bucket. Well, the person who all put us in the fucking bucket just sits back and laughs at us all fighting against each other. And while we may have many differences, and there might be a lot of bozo, clownish activity amongst us, if we only focus on that, then the people who keep us in this bucket fighting amongst ourselves are never going to be addressed, and will never actually have to do anything other than just keep setting us about hating each other. And so while there is a lot of necessary blame to go around on all sides, sitting here and just assuming it to be something that you can minimize away to just one segment is that's a little bit of a fool's errand, and will leave you kind of being willfully compliant along with the fuckery just as much as they were in being exploited, because you're also being exploited in the idea that, oh, just blame feminism. And it's unfortunately it's a little bit wider than just that group. But they are certainly a very compliant vehicle to deliver the bullshit. So there's a large chunk of it that falls in their lap, and they have now spun off over generation after generation iteration of, because we're in what, fourth wave feminism, as they call it.
Yeah.
And so it's metastasized like a cancer. But ultimately, when a train goes off the tracks. Oh, sorry, I got a phone going off. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
But yeah, like it's some telemarketer, I'm sure. But when a train goes off the tracks, you have to go to where the train got derailed to actually kind of take care of the issue. And so if you don't take note of the conductor who derailed the whole fucking thing,
Yeah.
you can't really blame just the train for going off the tracks. There was somebody who was at the controls of it all. And so it would be prudent to at least take that into account when you're thinking about these things.
Well, maybe one day we'll talk about why feminism is not necessarily a cancer that's metastasized, but rather that it's always been awful and evil and bad. And there are people who willingly push it because they want these terrible outcomes. But
right.
But anyway, we got to move on because we got a lot to cover. So let's talk about Sinners and Stardust. This is related to the Fortnite Fortnite and the Roblox thing, in that there's like there's like there's stuff we don't want to talk about that like we're not, but for whatever reason people are not comfortable discussing, especially when it comes to um predatory behavior, right? So people didn't want to know that this was going on in Roblox, but obviously it is, because anywhere where you have children you're going to have this problem. This is slightly different, but I thought it was also interesting. So do you know what Sinners and Stardust is?
I can't say that I'm all that aware of it.
All right, it makes sense because you're a dude. So
Yeah.
Sinners and Stardust
Is it
convention.
a cozy game?
Yeah, you're a man. That's why you don't know. But what it is a convention held in Boston that is a dark romance and romantasy event. So what is that? So like that's like literature for women, and well,
Mhm.
women are the primary readers of it. So you know, it's just like kind of like how gaming is what men mostly play games, women mostly read this kind of fantasy. Okay, romantasy is very, I don't know how to put it, lewd to say
Mhm.
the least. Okay, it's like really sexual. It's basically
Right.
female porn. So
Right.
like
Right. Right.
we go around talking about male pornography and how pornography is a problem, you know, for men or whatever, and everybody wants to censor it or do something with it or whatever, but they don't talk about women's porn. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that women don't watch regular porn too, but what gets women's engine going is these kind of like lewd romance novels,
Right.
these
Men are a little bit more
bloody
surface
romance novels,
level,
right?
visual, where women want to like
Yeah, they want to like
mind, body, and soul kind
they
of in
respond to
yeah.
it in, yes, they respond to it in a literary sense.
Yeah.
So there was, and a lot of the people who write romantic fantasy now, or what they call romantasy now, we used to be people on Tumblr that were
Mhm.
writing their fanfics, and now they write books. Okay, so it's important to know where this came from. So
Right.
you might remember in 2014, 2015, we would have like, you know, Tumblr. I think it was an Internet Aristocrat. It was one of the OG Gamergate guys. He would do, I think it was called the Tumblr Files or something like that, and he would go into
Mhm.
Tumblr and find stuff that was like weird or cringe or whatever, degenerate feminist stuff, and he would like show it to people and say, look, this is what they're doing. That's where pronouns came from, neo pronouns, all this like gender non-binary bullshit. All of that stuff came out of Tumblr, and now it's spilled into the real world. These people have come out of Tumblr and they're writing books. Anyway, so there was this event called the Sinners and Stardust Convention, and then reports surfaced that a male cosplayer, Animus, that's like their, I guess, like a nickname, was groped by several women to the point that his body paint, which was supposed to be smear proof, was smeared with handprints, and an air tag was allegedly placed on or near him to track him to his hotel room, causing significant distress. Other attendees, including authors like Leigh Rivers and audiobook narrators, reported also receiving a lot of non consensual touching and lewd comments. One attendee, a convention volunteer, reportedly wore a strap on dildo and engaged in inappropriate behavior, such as flashing it at others, further escalating the event's chaotic atmosphere. These incidents sparked widespread outrage on platforms like Threads and Instagram, with many condemning the lack of boundaries and consent. So, this is a female event with mostly women at it, and this is how
Yep.
they were acting. They came at this guy like he was like Elvis. You guys
Yeah.
remember the,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
like the way that fans would treat people like Elvis or the Beatles. They had to like run for their lives in some cases, literally.
Yeah.
Um, the event meant to celebrate dark romance with author signings and a themed ball was criticized for inadequate safety measures and oversight, despite organizers reportedly giving a pre-event speech on consent. The dark romance community, often centered around themes of consensual non-consent and explicit fantasy, faced scrutiny, with some blaming the genre for blurring the lines between fiction and reality, though others emphasized that predators, not the genre, were responsible. So this had become a little bit of a conversation. So another thing about this dark fantasy stuff, these like really essentially pornographic fiction that women read, is that they're very rapey. Like there's
Mhm.
a lot of like, you know, they call it consensual non-consent, but
Yeah.
that's a paradox, obviously.
Right,
rapey.
right.
They're like great fantasies in literary form, and it's not new. 50 Shades of Grey is
Right.
essentially that.
Right.
And if you look at and the thing too with these romantasy books, you can find them in like Walmart. You can find them at like your local grocery store in the impulse section,
Yeah.
sometimes, or a drugstore or something. So it's
Yeah.
not like men's porn where you like either have to find a website or you would have to like go to a specific kind of shop and go to the back room or whatever behind the counter at the 7-Eleven. There might be like some, Playboys or Hustlers. This is like, actually like you can just get this anywhere because it's the written word and not photographic.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, there's some interesting stuff that goes, like, not to say that, there isn't, predatory activity and that, there are certainly issues with, sexual assault and things like that do happen. However, I think we would, again, this is one of those things where it's like, why do women freak out about it so much out loud? To some degree, it is a bit of projection because there are a lot of women that are very much into.
Oh, for sure.
And
a lot of feminist women are into it,
right? And they're
like,
trying to repress and deflect away from their interest in these things, which is why as the expression goes, the lady doth protest too much. And there's also, as a guy who has a background, working in porn shops, things like that, I do know that women in strip clubs, like female strippers, you cannot get access to them unless like there's a very specific kind of avenues for that kind of stuff, and it is under their control and it is under surveillance the entire time. Anything that shouldn't necessarily even be happening actually is. Whereupon, if you go into a women's strip club, for women, they will just straight up they will just grab a dude by the dick and like just you talk about rapey, women in large groups,
they just assume that
with
men
a lack of
it.
inhibitions. They do. Yeah, it's yeah.
And do you remember Justin Bieber when he was 18 years old? He was on an award show.
Shit, I don't even think he was 18
he
yet.
got grabbed by Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah.
Right. Let me see if I can find it on X because I know
I thought he was like only 16 or 17 at the time.
No, he was. I think he was 18. I think he was 18. But
either way, yeah, she was like 20 years. Could have been his mom.
Here we go. I found it. Give me a second. I'll show it to you guys real quick. Here we go.
Jenny McCarthy was at Pink.
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Get that off of there.
Hey. We have to be naked on stage during one full song. Answer Justin Bieber.
I have like little girl fans. I can't go.
Okay, imagine it was so large.
Look at this. Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
People wonder why he's so fucked up these days.
Wow, look at your eyes. What? So look at him. Look at that beautiful.
Dude.
All right.
Yeah.
It was Katy Perry who apparently wanted to know what a Bieber butt felt like.
Squeeze your face. No, I will. No. Squeeze your face.
Canadian high school. This with me. Come on, let's do it together.
That makes me feel uncomfortable.
I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody.
So it's no wonder that he's a mess right now.
Dude's got a tragic backstory. It's unfortunate. Not for fame and fortune and that doesn't even get into the stuff that's on the Diddy.
I mean, we know Hollywood's degenerate, but like the thing is that this guy, by the way, at this convention, He had a panic attack. He was terrified. He was trying to get away from these women. There was an air tag. You guys know what an air tag is?
Yeah,
Like a tracking
it's
device.
RFID. Yeah.
Yeah, and
for GPS.
he didn't know he had it until he got to his hotel room. So somebody like tagged him so they can like go find him at some point in the future, I guess.
Mhm.
It was all women.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure you guys know this is women that did this, and you know, you could say they were, you know, ham beasts or whatever, but like this is like the thing that we have to reckon with is that women can do these things, and they do, and they do it to children. So it's not just that's one of the reasons why I showed the Justin Bieber thing, but also I saw this clip, and I'm going to find this one now.
And while you're looking for that,
Joe Rogan.
Mhm.
What?
While you're looking for that, I'm just
Yeah.
there's a reason why the movie Misery is so fucking, you know, because that is Kathy Bates is a crazy frumpy woman who wants James Caan's shit, like, because he wrote a book. And yeah, like, women, psychotic women, you know, men can be deranged, clearly, everyone, but psychotic women, they go, well, it's like what you know, we were just mentioning previously about like how feminism took something that was incepted by someone else and turned it into something else entirely, to where, yeah, it is kind of like, yeah, women are.
Oof. Yeah, the guy blacked out. That's what, because I read his the guy who was assaulted at the Sinners and whatever, Sinners and Stardust. He blacked out like that. That's how. And look, some people say, you know, I think that there were some people who were like, well, he couldn't handle the attention or something like that. No, like it's first of all, he could be married, he could have a girlfriend.
Right.
The other thing is, maybe he just doesn't want women touching him. Maybe he's gay. Maybe there's a number of reasons, right?
Right.
Like it's enough to just not want people assaulting you. That should be enough. But if you think about it, he could like allow that to happen and then get accused of assault later.
Right.
By one of those women. And what could he do to defend himself?
Right, because that's the state of reality that we live in. A woman can attack you, and I know this from my own personal experience. You know, I've got a conviction now, an assault charge, because an 18-year-old blue-haired frumpy cunt decided that she wanted to attack me for cleaning up a mess, and then she, you know, went and called the cops after violating me and assaulting me and all this kind of stuff. And the cops were still like, well, you have to bear the responsibility. So yeah, women, whether the assault is sexual in nature or not, are given preference in today's society to just kind of do as they will, and then not have to take accountability for instigating insanity, you know. And that is an unfortunate place to be in 2025, but that is the state of reality, and people should be aware of that.
Yep. All right, so here's another clip I want to share. This is Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. I don't know if she's still with them, talking with Joe Rogan. Okay.
I think that men's rights activists do have really good points when it comes to the prosecution of men versus women. I mean, if you look specifically at pedophilia, right? Or if you look at a male teacher in his 30s having sex with a 14 or 15-year-old student versus a female teacher in her 30s having sex with like a 14 or 15-year-old male student, I know you're going to disagree with me. You're going to be like, well, yeah, the boy wanted it. The boy wanted it.
No,
I know.
I'm going to disagree with you. It's not possible. This is what I mean. I have a joke about it. It's a man can molest a 14-year-old girl, but a grown woman can't really molest a 14-year-old boy. She can only let him fuck her. And it's not the same. Like, the boy's going to be okay. He really is. I mean, he'll be a little confused at first.
Don't you think that double standard in our justice system is ridiculous?
So, and Joe Rogan's attitude about this is not abnormal.
Right.
We just watched that Justin Bieber thing, okay?
Yep.
And this is the thing. Like, when you have that attitude, because like I do the show.
It enables the fuckery.
Yeah, it enables women to do that. It forgives them. And that's basically, he's engaging in pedophile apologia right there. He's making the case for female pedophiles, and he's acting like it's okay.
Right.
That is a rare instance. This is mainstream.
Yeah, that's a rare instance where Joe's got the L take and Anna, of all, is actually the one who's actually being legitimately based in reality.
Yeah.
If we're talking about things being equal and not equitable, then yes, no, women can assault young boys.
Teachers rape their students
yeah.
all the time. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but I'm saying that it's common enough, and the way the news reports it makes it look like it's not happening, because they won't say, female teacher rapes student. They'll say female teacher has affair with student.
Right.
Female teacher secretly sleeping with student. Student seduces teacher. Into sex.
And the woman is still being victimized by somebody who has no legitimate agency, completely naive to the state of reality and everything like that. And like the presumption of guilt, like Joe was just saying, like that is,
And the thing is too, he assumes a bunch of shit. He assumes, he might want it because she's hot. Well, guess what? I've reported on these, and sometimes these women are not hot at all. Like they're fucking orcs, but I shouldn't even have to make that case. I shouldn't have to say that. Like it should be wrong anyway, because it's like, Joe, how hot should she be? Can a 6 do it, or does it should be a 7 or higher? Like, what do you? What
is our scale of acceptance
what's the
here?
scale we're working with?
I can't remember all the details, but I do remember there was a case of a woman who was specifically going out of her way to. She was committing. She was a child predator for teenagers, and she was effectively making her house into a party house where she was buying liquor for all these kids and everything like that, and they were basically running trains on her. And so like she's getting them drunk, she's doing all this kind of fucking stuff and whatnot.
Yeah,
and going out of her way to completely, just skew their perception of reality and all these kinds of things. That is some hardcore predatory act, and it's not just any one case. I'm just recalling one that that I can't even necessarily remember all the details for, because other events like that have happened where it's like, I can only just kind of speak about it in general terms. I can't even remember exactly the woman's name or where it even happened at this point in time, because it's happened multiple times like that. There are a lot of women who do, try to capitalize on exploitative means to take advantage of people. And then when accountability comes a calling, everybody lines up, it seems left, right, and center, to go and forgive them because, women, they can't be held responsible for their own actions. So like, look, because even the thing that I was saying earlier about the conductor of the train, women have a large degree of accountability because they bought into the bullshit to begin with and allowed themselves to be incepted and seduced into the darkness. But it's that whole, the perpetration of violence where a victimizer will become an abuser and things like that. And once you hit that abuser, point on the cycle, all the stuff that led up to it is stuff that led up to it, but you are still ultimately beholden to your own accountability for your actions at that point in time.
Yeah. There are stories of teachers. Thank you for Robert Johnson for this comment, because I was just going to say something about this. There are stories of women, let's just say women, who have raped children, gotten pregnant by them, and then got child support.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, can we just acknowledge that this is possible and that it's not good? Look, if you want to reduce rape, and I'm for that, raise your hand if you're for reducing rape in the world. If you want to reduce rape, then you probably should hold rapists accountable, no matter the sex, no matter the conditions, especially pedophilic rape. Because if a boy is raped by a teacher, or a teacher sleeps with a boy, right, which is rape, in my opinion, that boy is going to grow up not quite understanding what consent is. And guess what? He may go on to rape other people. So now we're going to stop, and then when he does it, we're going to blame men. We're going to blame patriarchy. We're going to blame rape culture, even though it was a woman that did that, right? That like put him on that path. I mean, most violent criminals have, like, they're like, it's over 90% in prisons grew up without a father. and of those, the ones that were rapists were raped themselves. Like that majority, that number were themselves raped as children by, you know, family members, like relatives, or, you know, like the boyfriend or whatever. So like if you want to prevent this stuff, then, you know, we have to look at this objectively and not ideologically. And that's all I'm asking.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like equality is fairness, whereas equity is vengeance. And that is the reason why feminist groups in recent years especially do not talk about wanting equality. They want equity. They want their seat. They want all the privileges and none of the problems. And that's what this whole culture that we're talking about promotes in and of itself is, give women a little bit of umbrage. Like, who cares if women are a little bit rapey? Clearly, you know, like as Joe was saying, he's like no, she's just letting a kid fuck her. It's like, no, that is such a whacked out kind of perspective to have on. And
I imagine that Joe has some skeletons in his closet and he's trying to justify them. But okay, so I got some comments and we're gonna move on.
Yep.
So Master Goa says women pretend they're above this stuff, yet they enable Epstein. Elaine didn't have to be his girlfriend, nor did she have to help him, but she wanted to. Well, her father was, I believe, a highly connected guy as well. So it's like the family business. But yeah, Elaine Maxwell was definitely, like, obviously she's number 2. So, you know, okay, and then let me see. Toon Flux says, what was that interview with Rogan done? I don't know when. I guess it was actually a couple years old, but it's on my X page at Badger Arcade if you want to look at it. It's a little bit longer. I just want to play the whole thing. Frank Blaskowitz says, was he molested by an older lady in this past? Yeah, possibly. I don't know if he has any stories about it, but it just sounds like a cope. And I've heard this too from other people that are like, oh, well, you know, it's just different. It's like, no, you don't understand. It doesn't matter if it's different. What matters is it's being treated differently. Like it should be treated the same regardless. Gabriel Lucas says, rape reducers united. Yes, we are in the same team. I think it's from 2014. I'll look it up. Thanks. You're welcome. All right. So anyway, I wanted to mention the Sinners and Stardust thing. It is related. It's cultural. And there's something else about this too that I think you might find kind of shocking. So do you know how bad the female porn thing is? I watched a video by a woman who writes about writing. She's like a writer, and she makes videos about you know, like the state of literature, which she is very disappointed in, which I understand because it's kind of shit. But okay, so the romantasy genre, which blends romance and fantasy, has been labeled, and it involves people like werewolves, you know, raping women and like vampires and like whatever, like monsters. This is the shit that these women are into, okay? Has been labeled as porn for women due to its often very explicit sexual content and heavy focus on emotional and romantic tropes, which appeal particularly to female readers. So these articles, these novels are described as hardcore pornography for women, emphasizing their emotionally charged, fantasy-driven nature over visual explicitness, suggesting they can be as addictive as visual porn due to their intense focus on idealized romance and sexual scenarios. So there is a Reddit thread I'm not going to show here because fuck Reddit, where some users equate romantasy to fairy porn, though others argue it prioritizes romance over pure erotica, highlighting a distinction between emotional connection and lust. The genre's popularity on platforms like BookTok, where explicit content is heavily promoted, fuels this perception, with authors like Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros cited for their spicy, trope-driven works. However, defenders argue romantasy empowers women by providing a safe place to explore sexual fantasies. This is a feminist argument, obviously.
Right.
As noted in a 2021 systematic review on women's pornography use, which found that some women feel sexually empowered and relaxed through such content. This is all bullshit, obviously. Like, I don't think men say that porn empowers them. Like, oh man, I was on, you know, fucking X Hamster and I feel empowered now. I think that this is just cope, because the thing is, and I said this, I did a show yesterday where I talked about this, and I said, you know, I know that there are people who are talking about banning porn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we can have the conversation about what the benefits are of porn. Some people make the argument for that, and what the downsides are, what the cons are. I do think that some people can become addicted. I do think that it can be a problem, in my opinion, but I'm not necessarily for banning it. I think people should just resist it. Like, it's going to be out there. You can't really get rid of it. But I think if you want to be in a better state of mind, it's probably better if you avoid it if possible. But that being said, I don't want to get into a conversation about porn right now, but the only thing I want to add to it is we can have a conversation about porn, but we also should be talking about this stuff, because the only thing is that we only consider porn that men watch to be porn, not the erotica that women read, which can be even more extreme because it's the written word, and women are not just like, not necessarily discouraged from it, but they're encouraged and emboldened to read it and get into it. And it creates
empowerment
problems.
Said, right?
Yeah, like 50 Shades of Grey was like a world-class bestseller. They made like movies out of it.
They celebrate this stuff. Yeah.
And you wouldn't do that for like Debbie Does Dallas. Like, that's not going to be in theaters getting like an HD remake or whatever. I think that I guess what I'm saying is that we have worn blinders to women's pornography to our own peril, to our peril, because it is having real life partnership issues. And let me explain. 2023. Okay, so evidence for potential negative effects mirrors concerns raised about pornography's impact on relationships and mental health. This is for women. Though research specifically on romanticy is limited. So this is the thing. Like, there's studies done on porn, but romanticy or female porn, there's almost no studies on.
Right.
But we know it has the same effect, but no one thought it was worth looking into. This is what I mean when I say we can talk about this stuff, but we should be looking at the other side of the equation here. You can't solve a problem if you don't have all of the variables, right? And so we're leaving out the women aspect here.
Yeah, one of the weird things. I was on a stream a couple weeks back, and someone was giving an anecdotal story about this woman who thought this guy came off as a little bit, in her mind, rapey, right? And then she got quite aroused by that, and she felt a little bit ashamed with herself about how aroused she was by it. But again, this is one of those things where there are certain women out there that want to feel so desirable that men cannot control themselves. And that's why I say the lady doth protest too much. Some of this projection about how rape culture is like, this terrible thing that's only perpetrated by men is because it plays into that whole fantastical kind of, women want to be desired. Some of them are into that so much so that they want men to be perpetrators and predators, because that's their kink. And that's the thing, like we're talking about, that's getting omitted.
They're like those dark triad men. It gets darker though too. So not only does this stuff, it looks like the overconsumption of this erotica for women creates surprisingly unrealistic standards on their sexual partners in real life. Because they're reading like these books about women getting raped by minotaurs with horse cocks, and they're like, wow, this guy's penis is small, for example. But it's not just that. There's something else too. There's something that I learned about in relation to this specifically that I didn't know existed. It's called POCD. Do you know what POCD is?
I couldn't say that I know
it's a subtype of OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. It's called pedophile themed obsessive compulsive disorder. And it is intrusive, distressing thoughts about being sexually attracted to or harming children, despite having no such actual desire. These thoughts are ego dystonic, meaning they conflict with a person's values, causing intense anxiety, shame, and compulsive behaviors like avoidance or checking for arousal. So there's there appear to be women that have read enough of this POCD stuff, or not POCDs, these romantasy books, that they have reported experiencing POCD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's in these books, but I'm just giving you guys like, this is how dark this can get. Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's basically what I was just talking about too. Like,
we need empirical data on it more, but there's almost none. But there are some people who are talking about this stuff, and it's kind of concerning.
Well, there's an issue though with collecting that data. Is while it is nice that some women have been upfront and open and honest about that, there are probably a much larger degree of women who won't.
Yeah.
You know, and that is like, again, that's kind of like the whole thing about like they might be getting exploited and incepted by these writings, but they're conditioning themselves for all the things that they sit here and talk about men and the negative and this and that. If we're going to be objective on these things and we actually want to find a way forward through equality and fairness and not these weird equitable based double standards, then we do actually have to take stuff like this into account, that women will self-hypnotize through conditioning over and over and over again using stuff like this. And then basically, because it creates neural pathways, right? And the way that your shit's wired is affected by, things that have been done unto you, and then the things that you do unto others, and creating those associations, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, and women, especially now in 2025, women do have a lot of what they call empowerment, but they're actually power fantasies, and they want to have all these privileges to just commit wide scale fucking bullshit, because to them it's alluring and makes them feel wanted. Like, I remember, when my ex-wife, first came clean about like fucking around on me. She's like, you just have to understand, I've never had anybody who looked like that, and it's like, he treated you like a whole. But again, yes, you made that decision, and then you tried to lie and hide about it, and then tried to like play it off as because he had like some whatever kind of physicality, and it's like, and you sit here and act like that's some kind of defense, and I mean, this was back at the time where I was getting offered to do modeling myself, and so it's like, I'm not necessarily like the greatest looking dude in the world. I don't pretend to be like some gym rat or anything like that, but by the same degree, it's like it's like, I'm not terrible, but to hear that kind of bullshit is just kind of like, oh, well, thanks for diminishing and demeaning me, because it's like, but to her, like, it made like all the sense in the world why to not be held responsible for her fuckery and her accountability, which only led to in me trying to be caring and forgiving. Only further enabled her kind of mania, and that cycle would repeat itself over and over again while I was stuck in college, until I got to the point where I was like, I ultimately had to be the one to break the cycle. And she was surprised as fuck, because she just thought that she was going to be able to perpetuate these power play dynamics time and time again and never have to take responsibility or accountability for any of it. And I know I'm not unique in that regard. And so yeah, this definitely is one of those things, though. It's like, but getting women to be honest about that kind of stuff, that is another hurdle in the whole kind of how do we fix it.
Yeah. But yeah, just something that, again, we have not been looking at this. We have not done studies on it, and I think that it's going to have effects, and I think it's important to address. I think you guys can piece it together, what all of this was. This was kind of like the big story I wanted to talk about on the show today, but I got to move on because I got two more things to get to in less than 10 minutes to do it, but I think we can do that. Okay.
Indeed.
So let us move on to the next story. Okay, so you probably know. So this is a small thing, but I think it's worth just touching on briefly. VTuber and Twitch streamer Riley CS, known for a cat girl avatar, faced a brief Twitch ban after a viral Battlefield 6 beta gameplay clip sparked widespread cheating allegations. The clip was posted on X on August 8th and amassed over 47 million views and showcased Riley CS landing precise shots, including a controversial 180-degree flick to an enemy not visible on screen except via the minimap. Critics accused them of using aimbots, pointing to the unnatural snap and accuracy, particularly at the 13-second mark. In response, Riley CS streamed with hand cam footage to prove the skills were legitimate, but Twitch suspended the channel on August 11th, likely due to mass reports. The ban lasted a day, aligning with Twitch's policy for first-time cheating offenses, and he was unbanned the following day. No evidence confirms EA banned his Battlefield 6 account, and some defenders, including a supposed Battlefield developer, argued his 25% shot accuracy across 100 games was within normal ranges for skilled players. But then,
you don't have to cheating all the time to be a cheat, and it would specifically the I filmed it, with one of my hands occupied with a camera, and yet because that's the film sequence that we're talking about. All they did was film themselves in the act of using the aimbot. And because they filmed it, they're like, "Oh, but my hand, that's even more sus what you've done." Because you're sitting here pulling off this shit that's impossible with two hands free, and you've got one of them already occupied. But this is a whole bunch of trans identity privilege.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Is the cheating thing is not really the issue,
right?
But I will show the clip so you guys can see it. I think this is it. I'm not sure. So here's the clip, I think. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right here. I don't know if you saw that, but he shoots at a guy through cover, almost like this is why it was suspicious, right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And all right, so I don't want to belabor the point too much, but the thing is that if it was just like any cheater that was caught, this would be a non-controversy.
Right.
You'd be like, "Oh well, they cheated, they got banned." But because this is a troon furry, it becomes like a whole thing. So, people were accusing those who were calling out the cheating as transphobes, and that Riley was only targeted because they are a trans woman. With some posts claiming some of the people were claiming that the accusations of cheating were fueled by bias rather than evidence.
Yeah, I got called a transphobe when this whole thing happened because
one of the
activists said something to me to the effect of, "Well, you just don't understand that trans people are just better at certain things." Like, yeah, you're better at cheating. You're better at defying concepts of the natural order of things. You want to sit here and cheat the language. You want to cheat because ultimately, yes, trans people are really better at cheating than most people because they're trying to cheat the very nature of life itself.
Yeah. Carl Jobst's video on this was pretty good. This is Saltpeter Taffy in the Rumble chat. He did completely dodge the trans aspect of it, though, stuck strictly to the gaming. Well, he probably doesn't want to get canceled. He doesn't want to get sucked up into that because
there were quite a few people.
And that's the problem is that this shouldn't be like a radioactive topic. No. It doesn't matter what, I feel bad for the guy for not knowing that, he's not actually a fucking cat girl. But the truth is that, if they're cheating, then okay, let's just address it or whatever. He got a 1-day ban. And I guess they're back on, and there are some videos of him playing with his hand cam, but that doesn't necessarily prove anything. I don't know. It's just a shame that this had to be discussed at this level. So don't want to spend too much more time on that. I don't know if you have any final thoughts, but
I pretty much expressed them already. I was called a transphobe because I pointed out the,
Yeah, of course you were.
nature of the
The way it
reality.
goes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I called
then
transphobe a couple
last,
times the last few weeks.
yeah. All right. So lastly, we got Disney, and they are they're worried they're losing their young male Gen Z audience.
You think?
I wonder why. So and then this was expressed in a recent Variety article that reported that Disney is grappling with a significant loss of its young male audience, particularly Gen Z males aged 13 to 28, specifically for its Marvel and Star Wars franchises. The article highlights Disney's internal acknowledgement of the issue, with executives tasking Hollywood creatives to develop original intellectual property to win back this demographic. There's no way. There's no way. The studio shift comes amid struggles with Marvel, where films like Fantastic Four: First Steps underperformed despite positive reviews, and Star Wars, which hasn't had a theatrical release in 7 years. I remember when that would not have been weird, because I lived through the original trilogy and then the prequels, which were like 20 years apart. But I guess now, in the time of we have to constantly make new products, that's kind of crazy. Yep. Disney's past focus on female-centric storytelling, such as emphasizing characters like Rey and Captain Marvel, have been criticized for alienating its core male fan base. With a 2024 Rap report noting Star Wars' audience is 65 to 70% male. I bet it's more than that, actually. Or was when it was popular. The article suggests Disney's push for splashy global adventures and horror-based concepts aims to counter superhero fatigue and reconnect with young men who are increasingly drawn to video games and viral meme culture over Disney's offerings. David Greenbaum, head of Disney's live-action division, and Daria Sersek are leading this effort, seeking fresh, male-appealing stories, though critics argue this reactive strategy may struggle to rebuild trust with a disillusioned audience.
Well,
so,
there's an issue with that
ahead.
in and of itself. Because, all right, so, and I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the Chris Gore quote about, go down in history of, Disney, turning Star Wars into a female brand. So before he ever said that, I used to frequent their live streams quite a bit, and I've hated Disney for decades, right? And I've been telling people for decades, and I used to say this in his chat, that they went out of their way specifically because Disney has primarily been a business based around tweenage girls since the 90s, right? And the whole purpose of purchasing Star Wars and Marvel was so that they could buy was to buy a built-in install base of boy brands, because they didn't cater to that, and they set about doing what they've always done, and lo and behold, and that's what I was saying, back then before he got popular for saying it, was all they are going to accomplish is undermining these brands that are gender specific to male interests and turn it into everything else that Disney fucking does, because they never change. They have been doing the exact same bullshit for decades, and it will never fucking change. And so all this is them at least taking notice to a degree that they lost the plot with this property, but they're never gonna fucking change. They're never gonna change. And so it doesn't matter if they come up with something new that's intended to be for boys, or if they go and they buy a whole bunch more fucking brands. Like currently, their new thing, because they own ESPN and everything like that, there's now a partnership with WWE that has just happened. All Disney cares about, ultimately, at the end of the day, is trying to keep the revenue cycle flowing and getting more units in. And because Disney is a toxic fucking brand for most people, they don't want anything associated with it. They go and they rely on these other properties that they can buy outright and have ownership to, or extreme, cohesive partnerships, so they can leverage your interest in the thing that they don't know how to fucking do for themselves. And all they end up doing is undermining the properties that they get involved with, because they're never going to fucking change. Ever. That's Disney. You know,
Yeah.
when you talk, I mean, and that is kind of the theme of the day. Like, you want to talk about like, a pedophilia culture and everything like that. If you love your kids, don't take them to Disney World. Don't take them to Disneyland. Stay the fuck away from the Magic Kingdom, because that in and of itself is symbology for a whole bunch of fuckery. And there's a reason why Epstein Island's a mere 3 miles away off the Florida fucking coast. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not a fan
of
Disney.
I mean, like, if I mean, I grew up on Marvel and Star Wars. I don't think they should be under Disney's control, but I'd like to see those IPs like recover in some way. Maybe somebody else will buy them. Maybe Skydance. I don't know. But they've definitely lost their way, and a lot of it has to do with them alienating the people who built them. Like, Marvel wouldn't exist if it weren't for men or boys. Star Wars wouldn't exist for those same reasons, and they definitely fucked up. But the other thing is that, well, I mean, like, I think that I don't know that they have it in them to actually attract boys back.
No,
especially
the power structure hasn't changed, and as long as that power structure, you have to completely gut it from the head down, and their leadership. Their leadership structure is the whole reason why they will constantly commit this over and over and over and over and over again, because again, they believe in an equity-based mindset, not like anything about equality or accountability.
Well, they don't
blame the audience time and time again, and
they're not even really appealing to girls either. So it's like that it's not working.
They've lost everyone.
So and they hired too many queers.
Right.
I'm just saying, like,
right, and that's the thing. Like, they're now caught up in that whole trans identity crisis.
Indoctrinate people with their messaging, and lost the plot. Meant lesbian space witches. That's all I got to say about that. That was it for Star Wars. Lesbian space. I mean, for me, it was dead at like The Force Awakens. Like the first thing they put out, I was like, nah, it's trash.
I saw that in the theaters. I've never watched it again.
Yep.
And I never watched
my friend dragged me out to see it because he's a big Star Wars fan.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, and I don't expect it to be good.
I didn't either, because I never liked Jar Jar. Everybody told me how great Lost was, and I watched one episode back when I was in college.
You're talking Jar Jar Abrams. Okay.
And
Jar Jar Binks is okay, man.
Yeah, no. But yeah, like I saw he was involved with it, and just knowing, because I told her I saw one episode, I think it was like some random episode in the first season, and I told them exactly what Lost was and how it would play out just off of watching one fucking episode.
I didn't watch that show.
And years later, when it got to where it played out, I was absolutely fundamentally correct in everything that I was talking about. And so when he was involved with it, I had a free ticket pass, and so it was like, I haven't watched a Star Wars movie in the theater since the prequel trilogy had come out, and so like I said, I watched it the one time, and anything that I've ever seen for the ones that followed was through a third party kind of intermediary, like Mahler or someone doing a review or something. But you could never pay me to even think about watching Star Wars bullshit at this point in time.
Nope. For sure. And well, I mean, like, as I said, the less I say about what happened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the better. So I do hope that I don't really care what happens at Disney at this point, but I do think that there's some IPs attached to them that could like disengage themselves and build something, or like try to recover. And I think that is Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar. If those can get away from Disney, like Pixar hasn't been good for a long time either. And some of the people who left them, there are people who left them that went on to work for Skydance or even Angel Studios. So like, maybe Angel Studios should buy it. I don't know. I think they could do something with it. Speaking of Angel Studios, this is the last thing I want to mention. It's kind of as an aside. So if you guys don't know, Angel Studios is like this new studio that's sort of come out in recent years. They've been making a lot of waves. For example, they had the movie Sound of Freedom, which was kind of a big hit. They had to, how do I put it? It was like a crowdfunded, I think. to get it out there, and it was very successful. And also, that movie, Sound of Freedom, was originally supposed to be put out by Disney. But
yeah,
Disney
I was gonna say they ended up buying the distribution rights and all that.
Yeah, and then they ended up canning it for like several years, and so they couldn't release the film. But since then, Angel Studios has been doing really well. Their show called The Chosen is very popular, and they have a lot of other things, animated things as well. Sketch, the King of Kings, and I know that a lot of it is like sort of religious content, but not all of it. So that's another thing I'm think it's important to point out. There is a show called The Tuttle Twins, which is sort of like an educational show for kids that is libertarian. It comes from a libertarian perspective. So it's not just like sort of Christian content. There's a lot of that, but it's not cringily done in the same way that, say, like some of those I don't know, those PAX movies do it. But the thing is, they're trying to really become like a real competitor to the mainstream. And now they're offering they've gone public and people can buy shares. So I thought I would just let you guys know. The Angel Studios, I think I'll show that here. Apparently their movies generally get higher reviews than all the other major studios. You can see that. Universal, Sony, Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, Angel. And if you look at the list here, maybe with the exception of Universal, I'm not really sure, but I know that Sony, Warner Brothers, Disney, and Paramount have all burned our franchises. Paramount destroyed Star Trek. Disney destroyed Marvel, Star Wars, and even their own movies. Warner Brothers destroyed DC and the Looney Tunes, and a lot of their franchises. I think Disney's got like some Predator thing out now, and there's an Alien show that's really bad.
Yeah.
So like, if it might be the case that Angel is the only company that's not burning everything down. So if you're interested in buying stock, it could be an opportunity, because I think they're going places, and they have a lot of stuff in the pipe. I will show you here. They even show you here. The Angel Guild hit a major milestone of 1 million paying members worldwide in March 2025, because they're a streaming service with their own content, I think. Lindsay has, or used to have, an account with them. I don't know if she still does. The King of Kings is the #1 animated biblical film of all time. So it's like higher up than one of my favorite animated movies based on the Bible was what is it called? It was DreamWorks that did it. It was Moses.
Oh, yeah.
The Prince of Egypt.
Yep.
And that was a great movie. Not forget what it's about. It's just a good movie. Like, it was like if you've never seen Prince of Egypt, it's good stuff. Okay. So this made more money than that, this King of Kings thing, by them. And a lot of the guys that worked at Pixar and at DreamWorks, some of those guys left those companies to work for Angel Studios. They have a series called David, which is an animated series about David and Goliath, like that David from the Bible. So I don't know if if you guys are interested in buying stocks, but you could make some money on this. And I just thought I would let you all know, this is not like my normal kind of content, but I think we are talking about the culture, and if we want to build something new, at least support
put
people who are
some
doing
action
right?
into it. Yeah, you can't just talk about it. So yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always telling people, and they're like, oh, but these companies, they can salvage it, and it's just like, no, man, you're just enabling to be cheated on. Like what I was just talking about, if you allow the power play dynamic and you perpetuate the cycle at a certain point in time, it's like you got no one to blame but yourself. So yeah, if we want the culture to shift, as it were, we have to stop showing support for one reason or another to these companies that are ultimately just corporatist driven globalists that are looking to undermine the sanctity of our identity as a nation, as a people, as a culture. And so you actually have to do business with people that do business with you and treat you like a customer, not some consumer that has to deal with all their top-down kind of directives with no say in the whole thing. So
yeah.
It's like, I mean, this is the reason why we do Cake, and to some degree, I would even put this under that umbrella of support independence. People that aren't just, you know, some IP hedge fund warehouse that you know, just goes and puts everything out on a conveyor system, merely skinning the exact same story over and over again, and having some, you know, statistical analytical AI system, you know, just generating new scenes based off of old properties so that they go through the exact same beats and the exact, you know, like what you're watching the exact same thing over and over again. You're playing the exact same game over and over again, and all this kind of stuff. And you know, and it's one thing to do it intentionally, like what we were talking about at the beginning of the show with Metal Gear, where that is the purpose of it. But when you go and put out rehashes that are relying on those beats and those themes and this and that, but they're trying to mask it as somehow being new and different, but all it is just, you know, conditioning you to ultimately allow the exploitation cycle to continue and perpetuate itself and turn you into a consumer rather than a customer. You know, these are the things that we have to break the cycle on. That's why I would say that this counts as today's Cake. You know, seeing as we're getting to the end of the show as it were.
That's kind of, well, I want to, there's like a Gamescom that happened last week, but we'll cover that next week. I think next week I don't suspect anything crazy is going to happen, so we can make that like a Cake-filled week.
Indeed.
Weekend. So, but yeah, so I don't know, man, check it out if you're interested. Again, I do think that it's important to invest in people that are creating. I did get a super chat. Thank you, Master Goa, for 5. And he says, women's power fantasy is corporate, but their true desire to give up power is to give up power. Women literally emulate male bosses that cede their power to dominatrixes. Oh, that's a good point. All right. Thank you for the super chats. And I guess we're gonna wrap it up there. So, John, what are you going on? What do we are going on this week?
Well, I got a meeting with someone today. See if I can start doing some more production work so I can afford some groceries. Other than that, though, of course, you can always see me throughout the week on Will of the Fans channel, which is where you'll see me next tomorrow. If you want to get involved, we will be doing reviews of. We are up to season 3 of Red Dwarf. So we're doing WTF Live TARDIS, Time in Red Dwarf in Space, which I'm still finishing up the logo on. So I'll be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, as I will throughout the remainder of the week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And then, of course, I do my mainstay with Toasty on her channel on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. But her and I were talking last night about shifting things and whatnot. Like there's been, you know, some unspeakable things that have kind of happened in the background and this and that over the course of the last few months and everything. So we're retooling the show, and I'm probably going to get in contact with her about some stuff based on what we've been talking about here today on what I think proactive steps will be for going forward. But we're talking about moving the show to a different time slot. If that doesn't happen this week, we start at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. However, that might be getting shifted back at some point in the near future. Not might, it will be getting shifted back to 8 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be going from 3 hours to 2 hours because it's just kind of getting to the point to where as they say, work smarter, not harder. And if you're putting in time and effort and it's starting to kind of like grind against you, reapproach and give yourself time for more creativity and other opportunities and a way to kind of like build your way out of it, I guess. So that's kind of what we got going on, at least for myself. But with that said, though, I think today's show was definitely content rich. Of course, I think you and I have the best conversations that I have with anybody on the internet throughout the week here on this show. And of course, everyone in the audience, always a pleasure having you here, whatever platform you're watching on. But with that said, safe travels ahead. Y'all have a wonderful weekend going forward. forward. Of course, be awesome as always.
All right. Well, let's see. It's we're getting close to the end of White Boy Summer, but I will be playing Helldivers 2 next week because it's going to be on Xbox, and I want to see, like, basically we gotta break in the new recruits. So be on the lookout for streams of Helldivers 2 next week. Maybe a little bit more Cyberpunk because I'm almost done with Phantom Liberty, and I could like finish that. And as usual, I'll be on Honey Badger Radio and Badger live streams for the sort of like normal, more serious topics. So anyway, with all that said, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you, John, for joining me. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Long live Vivian, most oppressed group of all.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.